What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Ghostrunner 2 and the success of the game. This actually just came out and was reported on from Okami Games, saying that Ghostrunner 2 has hit $6 million in revenue in its first 5 days, recouping its production budget of just over $4 million. Now, a few things to talk about there. Number one, that's great in terms of the success, so I guess we'll get there, but also just in the first 5 days of making that, right? So hopefully that was actually back in late October. We're about a month away from that now. So hopefully it's reached that double digit, I guess, $1 million mark, and maybe not, but maybe it's gotten close. A thing to note, two things in terms of like the financials. Number one, the game actually with that money did not do all that like incredible. You're talking about maybe like 150,000 or so copies sold, which is not like, despicable. It's not like absolutely terrible, but it's not what we're used to seeing with like the really big numbers, right? Like when the Spider-Mans or Starfields of the world, come out. Even a game like Sea of Stars that came out on the subscription services, they talked about how I believe 250,000 people bought it within the first however long, they reported it. So it's not the biggest number. And again, note, like they talk about the money, not necessarily the units, because yeah, it's probably in the 100 to 200,000, unit mark. But that leads us to this final part. I'm very thankful that the budget was like non-existent. And I say that in a joking way of some, because you say, $4 million. Well, that is definitely a budget, right? Like that's a lot of money, and you and I can't come up with that money to support a studio and support a game. But when you hear again a lot of the costs of games just across the planet, across all of these different developers, that is very, very low. And I guess, with the indie kind of scene, this is where it's going to need to kind of happen. This was a game that I was somewhat worried about. I did a review on the main channel. They actually gave me a code for this game. I love to death the first Ghostrunner game. I think it's an awesome game. I actually think this game, they took several steps back in several instances, and I think the first one is actually a better game, but this is a franchise that I really, really like. I'm very happy that they've made two of them, and I'd like to see it kind of continue. So I was a little worried. It comes out not just during Alan Wake time, which was a big one for me, but Spider-Man and Mario and many other games that came out in that late October period. So I was kind of concerned that this game was going to get buried. And granted, I don't think this game did spectacularly well in terms of sales. You're not going to see it reach 1, 2, 3 million units. Maybe it reaches 1 eventually long term, right? But in the short term, again, you're looking at a couple 100,000. But again, thankfully, it didn't need to do all that much. And that budget, $4 million, that actually is like shockingly low. Very, very low for a game. I guess, again, that's what like the indie scene brings you. And like I said, that's what games are going to have to kind of do as we move forward. You're going to have your big, big budget games that need to make $200 million just to like make the money back. And then you're going to have games like this. And it seems like the ones in between don't really like exist anymore. Like that's kind of being phased out. But ultimately, I'm very glad this game did well, even if it didn't like sell, through the roof. It did what it needed to do. It made the fans happy. Although, again, I think it took some steps back. I think it's a very solid game for sure. Like, no doubt about it. And I want to see a third game as well. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel. Bell icon turned on. And I hope to see you all on the next one.